Hello, I'm Lopamudra Banerjee. I'm an assistant professor of economics at the New School for Social Research, and I joined the school last year in 2007. My basic areas of interests are in the interface of development economics, political economy, and environmental and resource economics. I also work on areas of social choice and macroeconomics.
Great, thank you. So tell me a little bit about what attracted you to the EC Fellowship. When you read the descriptions, what did you think, and why did you apply to it?
I'd consider two things to be most attractive of the program. Not often do we get a chance to do interdisciplinary work, especially, I have just graduated last year and I joined my career last year. So this is a very wonderful opportunity for me at this very beginning of my year when I'm still thinking about what are the important issues in which I'm going to contribute meaningfully in my discipline. At this point of time, to get this kind of an exposure and the chance to meet people who are already established, and also thinking about looking into issues of prosperity and poverty from a very interesting perspective, multidisciplinary perspective, that really attracted me to the fellowship. And the second thing was I really like the way things are organized, in the sense over the 2 years how residencies are constructed so that we can actually meet to talk about our project, go away, do our own work, and come back and follow up on that. That very nature of this program, that attracted me very much. So these are the two things that I found wonderful opportunity. Yeah.
And what aspirations you have, for the starting from, just having accepted the fellowship a few months ago until 2010.
Look, I do want to understand the issues of poverty and prosperity from a multidisciplinary perspective, from a multidimensional perspective. I just hope my understanding, which is mainly principally from the perspective of an economist, that is going to become more rich as I understand and collaborate and talk with other people. The first thing that I found in this fellowship is that when I was talking with my colleagues from other disciplines, the questions, even the simple questions that they ask, that actually asks me to confront the assumptions that I've already made about the principles or the theories that I know about. And just the very basic simple questions that somebody else from other discipline would ask would urge me to think about issues in a completely different manner. And the perspective that I got just from having this kind of a conversation with somebody else, coming from a very alternative and a different discursive understanding of the issue, that really made my experience and understanding more rich. So I do hope that we can get some real serious work done, and I hope this perspective makes this understanding more richer.
What are some of the things your experience with working, or at least talking to the India fellows and the China fellows as a new school faculty has been for you?
I have met young professionals coming from other country, from India and from China, and I have also met professionals who are more established in the fields. It was interesting to get the perspective on how a junior person would be thinking about issues and how your approach towards the profession and different disciplines that also change when you proceed on and become a more senior person. That was very interesting. The other thing that I found was that people were very open and willing to share things, so that this collaborative experience had been very rewarding for me. I mean, that is something I had this expectation, but I did not know who would be the people who I'd be working with. It's rather fortunate that I actually found people who would also be willing to work with me, who would feel that even I'd have something to contribute about, and I'm learning so much from them. So that's very fortunate.
Have you been to China before?
No, I have never been to China before.
And what do you look forward to in terms of your, expectations or aspirations towards going to China, joining the China residency, or even just studying about China through through a different lens?
Look, I'm an Indian, and this connection between India and China, that had been historically a long process. And I would like to know what are the understanding of what are, how your democratic process, political process, that defines your understanding about what is poverty and what is prosperity, and how the very approach might be or might not be different between the two countries. This is something I want to see the country, and I want to see the fastest growing country of the world, and I want to see what are the implications of that growth for different groups of people. I only get a very partial and fractured picture of the country as I read newspapers or as it has been exposed to popular media perception. I want to go and see what it is really like, because I have some understanding about what the growth rate in India is doing to different sections of people in India. I want to see how it is really for China. So I'm actually looking forward to it.
And you tell me a little bit about the collaborative projects?
Yes, I'm actually involved in two projects. The first one, which I consider to be my primary project, I'm working with Dr. Nimikurian and Dr. Vamsi, Vakulavaranam. Yeah, I think you need to edit that part a little because I'd be too ashamed if Vamsi.
Oh, you just repeat it. Say it
Say
again.
his name again.
Okay. Dr. Vamsi Charan Vakulavaranam.
Can you actually just say the whole sentence again?
Okay,
They
yes.
just start.
I'm working.
involved in two projects.
Okay.
Just
I'm
like that.
basically involved in two projects. In the first project, which is my primary project, I'm working with Dr. Nimikurian and Dr. Vamsi Charan Vakulavaranam on water control issues in India and China. Basically, the control over river water towards hydroelectricity generation and what implication that have for the local community, for the region, for the country as a whole. So this is one of the projects which I consider to be my primary project. I'm also involved in a secondary project which examines the issues of income and consumption and wealth inequality between India and China. It's a more empirical work where we would be examining household data from India and China, the caste data from China and the NSS data from India to see the level of inequality. I'm working with my friends at ICI, once again with Vamsi, Ashwini, Wei Zhang and Yang Ming. The five of us are looking into this project. So comparative analysis of poverty and inequality in India and China in terms of income, consumption and wealth.
That's fantastic. Having been through 2 very intensive weeks of residency in New York, what are some of your, looking back, what were some of your first impressions, and then what do you think of it now, at least at this point?
Some of the impressions had been rather personal, so I'll just to touch briefly upon them. It was wonderful to see how people are when I'm meeting them for a long period of time, and how do they react to issues and how do they reveal themselves over the time. When you meet somebody time and again on different occasions and talked about different issues. But I also found the period to be rather stressful because I thought that I'd be able to achieve a lot of things within that residency period itself. But I think that I failed to do so because the way it was planned, I would suggest that in the coming other residencies, I hope that we would be having more free time to work on things as and when we wish to, rather than have the different minutes planned the way it was. But this is something very interesting. I also learned a lot about myself. The level of stress that I can take, and whether or not I can really work with people, whether I'm able to interact with people, whether or not I can still be civil after the end of the day, of a very stressful day. So it had been a very interesting experience. Yes.
Do you mean that in terms of confidence level about yourself and your acceptance was in terms of differences of discipline, differences in terms of background? Can you be slightly more specific about that?
Yeah. I do not think it's anything to do with the confidence level because my friends and I, who are part of this fellowship, we know what we are doing in terms of our own discipline, but I think at least I was also curious to see that how I respond to questions coming from other disciplines, concerns coming from other disciplines, whether or not I'd be able to answer them and do justice to them in light of what I know. Especially from economics, we tend to make certain assumptions about people's behavior and what the growth and development entail. That kind of an understanding might be quite different from a sociological understanding or a philosophical understanding or a political scientific understanding of these issues. I was curious to see that whether or not a dialogue between these two completely different disciplines is at all possible, whether this kind of collaboration can at all be done, and how one would respond to even simple questions regarding the assumptions of, say, any kind of hypothetical deductive model that we take. And it was interesting to see how people respond to the different assumptions and when they face questions, and how do they reveal their understanding of the subject. Are they becoming deeper in their understanding, or are they becoming more defensive? So that was fascinating. Yeah.
What were some of your assessments, at least for now, in terms of possibilities of collaboration, after the first encounter of the difference?
This will sound very cheesy, but I'm really happy with what I got. Yeah, this was way beyond my expectation, and it's just not my fellows that I met. I mean, there were other people, for example, you, and Laura, and they're good friends now, and Grace, and it was a very, very, very rewarding experience. And Ashok, I mean, just not my fellows, but I'm just hoping that work can be done outside this fellowship as well, with people who are not directly involved in as part of the fellowship program and are as fellows. But I learned so much about the Jamaica project from you, so that was very interesting. Yeah.
Going back to the interdisciplinary collaboration, and that's always been a very difficult aspect. It has a nice ring to it, but it's as actual work, it's a hard sell.
Yeah, it's very difficult, especially in terms of the methodology. For example, I'm working with Nimmi and Vamsi on this water control project. Vamsi is an economist, I am also an economist, and Nimmi is a political scientist. So I want to see the way I would analyze a model, how will she treat that same kind of model, and what kind of methodology that she will find acceptable and she will agree to. And for example, if we are talking about a game theoretic model of understanding this water control problem, I think she would be more responsive to that. But if I'm thinking about a simple utility maximization model or a production maximization model in terms of this thing, or a presence of externality, the way we do in economics, I wonder how she will react to that. I'm looking forward to that interaction. We haven't got to that stage, but I'm just waiting to see how she will say about it.
That's great. That's great. And what are your plans for going to China and India?
I'm going to go to China and India in this summer. Visit both the countries this summer.
Great. Fantastic. Do you have anything else to add in terms of professionally? Oh, one thing that we would like to know a little bit is also as a faculty member. You talk a lot about the research,
yes.
and how has it had an impact on you as a faculty,
Yes.
and what you expect it to have?
Well, it has got two very direct and immediate implications for my teaching at the new school. I'm actually teaching a seminar course, a graduate seminar course on poverty, inequality and vulnerability next semester. And I'll be drawing upon my own understanding of poverty issues and inequality issues in India and China as part of that course. And that course would have a lot of resonance in terms of my research would be for ICI. Also, I'm teaching a course on political economy of disasters, and I would be talking at length about the water control issues and what are the implications of this kind of projects on different groups, and disaster management for that part. And I'd be directly using my understanding at the field level. I'm hoping to do some field work to enrich my course even more. And if possible, if time permits, and if this happens, then I'd like to take my students to the field site and have a more hand-on experience about the subject that we talk about in our classrooms. So indeed, I think it has got very direct and absolutely direct implication for what I'm doing here in terms of my teaching. And that's the thing about this fellowship. I really found it to be enriching on very different planes. I mean, it's affecting me as a scholar in understanding different issues. It's affecting me as a new professional by exposing me to these people who are like me, entering into the profession right now, and who are seniors. So this wonderful network and this wealth of understanding that people have gathered, and I can draw upon that. And together with that, there's implications for my teaching and my pedagogic understanding about the subject, because as I talk to people from different discipline, I have to make my explanations more lucid, and I think this is going to directly affect the way I teach in my classes as well. So, yeah. So it had been a wonderful experience.
Great. Is there any more?
No.
That's fantastic.